Start with Richard.
Good morning, everybody. This is Richard Zaletta with All Western Mortgage, and I'm honored to be here on this panel this morning. I've been in the mortgage industry and the real estate industry for well over 30 years. Basically, I've probably seen it all, done it all. So, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, David Tran with Home Car Home Warranty. Anybody who doesn't know me, please raise your hand. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I've been in the industry for 25 years and looking forward to another 25.
Good morning, everyone. Yolanda Arenas, WFG National Title Company. I started on October 6, 1982. So I was 4 years old. They let me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Marco with Allstate Insurance Agency, owner, 31 years in the business. I used to actually door knock right on Walnut and Valley, lived on Delta Avenue back in the 80s, so it's coming back full circle. Thank you.
Senior citizen.
Good morning, everyone. Alina Chu from Glen Oaks Escrow. I've been in the escrow business also for over 35 years. I think we started probably the same time. Yes, so been here a long time.
This must be the senior panel this time.
Okay, so the first question is for Alina. What happens if the PCOR is not filled out completely?
Okay, I just wanted to share something that happened to one of my transactions. It's been one in these last 35 years. I've never seen it happen, so I thought I'd share it with you. The PCOR is a form that must be attached to the grantee for recording. And you must have the buyers fill that out completely. Sometimes if there's something missing or something questionable, the county will email that form back to the buyers after the close of escrow for them to refill out the information. If they fail to do that, they send a second notice, and I'm not sure if they send out a third notice or not, but I had this buyer who just completely ignored it and didn't fill it out. And then a year later, they received a penalty on their tax bill, and that penalty was like 10%. And anything over $1 million, they will assess this 10% penalty for failing to fill out the PCOR. So you do get second chance, first chance, second chance, third chance to turn that in. But a lot of buyers, they ignore it. So just be sure that, let the buyers know if they receive any subsequent mails from the county. Don't ignore it, and either ask you or ask us, and we can always help them fill out that form again. It's just questions about the particulars of the transaction. So be sure to have them just reach out back to the escrow company, and we can certainly help them fill that out. But that was a pretty hefty penalty that the buyer received. That's pretty upsetting. The preliminary change of ownership form. And we call it PCOR for short, but it's a preliminary change of ownership form.
Can I just add to that?
The preliminary change of ownership report, it accompanies every vesting deed. So it's not just necessarily a grant deed, quitclaim deed. It can be an interspousal deed. It can be a corporation deed. Any type of vesting deed, even an affidavit of death of joint tenancy. You do need to fill it out properly. It serves as several purposes. One, if there's a change of ownership, whether completely new ownership or somebody's coming on or coming off title, first and foremost, the tax assessor's office wants to know who is now responsible for this tax bill. They want their money. So where is this tax bill being mailed to and to who? The second important part of this form is that you have to fill it out correctly, and there's many boxes, because it could prevent the property from being reassessed. Because whenever you record a vesting deed, it is subject to reassessment of the property taxes. There are a few exceptions, and that's why it's so important that you fill it out correctly. Just don't do a straight line through the nose and all that. Please sit down with your client or make sure they read over it and fill it out properly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. So here's the questions for Mark. What is impact on fire insurance from all the recent brush fires?
Okay, so 2017, believe it or not, was the biggest year where companies lost a lot of their profits from not profits, but they paid out so much claims. It was a record-breaking year for wildfires. But guess what? 2018 surpassed that. So how does that impact us in our areas here? Well, what we've been seeing in the industry is that more and more insurance companies are pulling out of areas, not only in the brush area, but in the near vicinities of that. So you would see rates starting to increase in those areas. But what is going to impact is like in our foothills right here, around Pasadena, around San Dimas. If you have properties, Glendora, Azusa Canyons, all those, you're going to find it that it's harder and harder to obtain fire insurance to close your escrow. So what we've been instructing when I've been going around the real estate companies trying to educate my realtors is to tell them that, hey, start early if you have somebody there. And so if you happen to have a listing there, don't just assume that the new buyers is going to be able to assume that, because most likely they're not. And if you have a buyer buying in that area, don't just assume that because they're with XYZ insurance company, that when they buy in these high brush areas or surrounding areas right below, that they're going to be able to get insurance, because they may not. I've had it where realtors have called me as low as, if anybody know where in Mount Olive Lane and Royal Oaks, that's pretty far right from the hillside, but I've had realtors say, hey, we can't get insurance there from certain companies. So
Thank you, Mark. Here's for Yolanda. What is the importance of submitting your statement of information, SI, early?
Okay, I know none of you are guilty of this, but when you have a transaction and you represent the seller, there's a form, it's called Statement of Information, or the SI, as we call it in our industry for short. And it needs to be filled out in its entirety. The SI needs to be filled out by every seller on title, okay? Now, if there was, we go back from the last insured transaction, so if there was previous owners, but they came off and there had been no title or escrow, we need SIs from them too. Because what the SI does is picks up on any personal liens or judgments against an owner. So that could be like federal or state tax liens, IRS liens, it could be child support liens, DA liens, or even just judgments against one's person. So it is very important that we get that SI in advance, because even though we're in today's modern technology with computers and everything, it is still a human that has to review all those names. And when a title company runs an SI, someone's name, we have to run every variation of that. Like Jose Lopez, we have to check out Jose Lopez, John Lopez, Johnny Lopez. That's a very common name. And so we can get pages and pages of liens with that name. And we have to check every single one of them. And sometimes these liens don't always have a social security number attached to it, nor does it have an address, a home address or mailing address. So you could see where it could be very time consuming, running that. Even like my name, Yolanda Martinez. I didn't realize how common of a name that was. And I had one time on a transaction, I was refinancing, and they said, Yoli, you have a $12,000 child support lien. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I had to go to the DA's office in City of Commerce and take all my information. And it was somebody I'm Yolanda Diane Martinez, and this is before I changed my name legally, Arenas. And the person who's the child support lien was against was Yolanda Ann Martinez. At the DA's office, they told me that they blanket all Yolanda Martinez's in LA County so that they can find their person. Well, being in the industry, I was very upset, and I told them, do you realize you bring down our credit score, our FICO score? I go, it's on my credit report, it's picked up when we run the SI. So it is very, very important that we fill that out. A lot of times, I know it's personal information and one does not like to fill it out. But it is important that they do fill it out, because a lot of times it's not your client's lien, it's somebody with a similar name. So we're just basically proving it's not them. But again, when your client does have a lien against their name, it is attached to any and all properties that they own. So it is very important that we get that in a timely manner. I know none of you guys are guilty of this, and I know Alina doesn't get this, but sometimes we get that SI the night before when they're setting up to record for the next day. So do you see we're running against the clock trying to, a very common name and make sure that they have no liens, because we don't like pulling a recording. That's the worst. And we're not into that. So please submit that SIN to your escrow officer as soon as possible. Thank you. I don't know if you want to add to it, Alina.
Thank you, Yolanda. Here's for David. I'm purchasing this old home and informed there are a few items in the house that are not working. The seller made it clear he's not going to fix them. Will my home warranty policy cover?
Well, first of all, I'm very glad to be the youngest member of the senior citizen. I feel much younger today. Your home warranty will exclude any cover item that are not operable and pre-existing until they are properly repaired. Since the seller is not going to fix them, the responsibility becomes the buyer's. And, the buyer needs to restore this item before the home warranty plan can continue to cover these items. To ensure the coverage under the home warranty, here's the number one advice. All repairs should be done properly by a licensed technician, and a legitimate receipt should be retained. Because usually when you hire someone who's licensed to do the work, they usually give you a certain guarantee, and we honor that guarantee, because if you spend $250 fixing it and then a week later it's broken again, you should contact that person, because he's supposed to come back and fix it again usually they give you a 30-day guarantee, and if they replace any part, sometimes the part can give you a 1-year warranty on that. And if over 30 days something fails again, then you can file a claim with us.
Thank you, David. Here's for Richard. How long does it take to close a loan with TRID?
How many of you remember when TRID was enacted? This is something that we as lenders really kind of cringed at, and I kind of see as an effect even to today. I think we've kind of forgotten the timelines that it takes to close a loan because of TRID and the CFPB. Once we take an application, the application gets taken, we submit it into our processing department, and disclosures are sent out. Disclosures take 3 days from the time they're sent out. We have a 3-day wait. During that period, we're processing the loan. Then once that 3-day wait goes, we go into submit to underwriting. But when the disclosures come back, we still have a 7-day waiting period that we cannot touch and do anything to them. I can't say touch, but we can't really move the file forward until that 7 days is up. Once the underwriter issues out an approval, then we have conditions. Depending on how well the file was put together and all the conditions have been met, we send everything in to sign off, and we get what's called our CTC, clear to close. Once the CTC is issued, then we get the CD. The CD is the closing document. Now, the closing document goes out to escrow and also to the buyers, and that initiates another 3-day wait. Then after the 3 days, docs are prepared, docs go out to escrow, docs are signed, they come back. Now, if you are doing a purchase, when the docs come back, we can fund the day that docs come back on most cases, as long as all the prior to fund conditions are done. If it's an investment property, there's another 3-day wait after docs are signed. During all this period, though, we're still working on conditions. We're still making sure that everything is ready and done. I bring this up because that's one question that's always asked to me. Well, docs are out. Why can't we fund? Depending on the situation, either an investment property, we have to wait 3 days, or on a purchase, I have to make sure all the conditions are met before we can fund. Now, there are a lot of lenders now that do call table funding, which means we'll fund without the original copies. There are still lenders out there that say, no, I want the original copies before we fund. So depending on the file, depending on the situation, it can take anywhere from 19 to 25 days to close a file in today's market. The delays typically arise where there's problems with escrow, where we get certain things that pop up, or the clients are not responding in regards to conditions that we need. So as long as we all work together and everybody gets everything together, we can close it in a timely manner, but delays do happen. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Here's the questions for Alina. What does fencing stands for?
Okay. FinCEN is something fairly new. It's just been implemented this last year. And FinCEN stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It is by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. It's called the Bank Secrecy Act. Okay. This department is set up to analyze the information to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. So the title company and escrow, they're not allowed to release this information to the public. But how it affects us in our transaction is that you're going to see, it would be best to turn in all your corporate documents, your statement of information early on to the title company. And the title company will then determine whether there will be additional documentations requested. In the past, if you owned it under a corporation, you turn in the corporate papers and that would be the end of it. But nowadays, you might be subjected to turning in a statement of information for the individuals, for the directors, of the corporation. So you have to turn in those corporate documents for title to review, and depending on the situation, they will send you forms, additional forms to fill out, whether there's more documentations to be turned in. So the reason I brought this up is so you are aware that we will be asking for more documents now than we used to in the past. So you have to just, they can't give you the parameters of what their, this new reporting agencies, they cannot give you the parameters or discuss it with you, but they will be investigating in every situation. Did you want to add anything?
And this is not a title escrow thing. This is a federal law that we are mandated. We have to do it. And actually, they're giving us, just like Alina said, very limited information. We cannot even ask that much. But we just know that we need to get this information from the client. So please be patient with us and just work with us so we can close the transaction.
Here's the questions for Mark. With the recent high winds, there have been lots of damage from fallen trees. Whose insurance is responsible for damages to homes or autos?
All right, so you have a listing, right? And happens that your neighbor's tree falls right on top of their listing. You know, most people assume that, hey, it's my neighbor's tree, so I'm going to go after their insurance and all that. And what people don't realize is that it's your own property, so your own insurance that handles that. So it's your listing or the owner's policy that will normally take care of a fallen tree that's caused by wind. So if my neighbor, supposing Yolanda's tree is next door and her tree falls down on top of my house, then it is actually my insurance that will cover it. Or her tree falls on top of my auto, it's actually my auto insurance comprehensive coverage that will cover it. Now, your is the thing that differentiates it. Yolanda is chopping the tree down and it falls on my house. Now I can claim against her home insurance, all right? So very, very important. Sometimes we get these issues. In fact, I had an Arcadia realtor call me last week regarding an issue like that. And in order to determine whose responsibility, her clients are having to go and get a survey done because they're not sure who owns that tree because the property lines aren't clearly defined. But that's how you resolve a situation like that. So know that is something that is covered as long as there's structural damage when a tree falls on top of a house. But that's who's liable and whose insurance policy really handles it is really up to whose tree that is, and was it an act of God or was it a negligent act where the owner intentionally cut it down. The other thing that I like to tell my realtors is that when you guys have a listing and all that, and if there's a tree that's overhanging, branch and all that, make sure that if it's not your client's tree, that if you touch that tree and all that, there's a potential that you bring liability back to your client, because now the tree might be top heavy back to your neighbor's house. I cut the branches that are overhanging my house because I'm scared of all the winds and all that might affect it. But now I've compromised the stability of the tree, and now it might fall back on her house. She can actually go after me for that. So.
I'm gonna cut my trees down.
Please do so.
Here's the questions for Yoli. What is an uninsured deed? How does it affect a transaction?
Oh my gosh, I must get about at least twice a day a call on uninsured deeds. An uninsured deed is a deed that is recorded outside of title and escrow. Now, honestly, anyone can record anything. Anyone can type up a deed, get it signed and notarized, walk it down to the Hall of Records and get it recorded. The Hall of Records, when they record it, they don't check for the validity of the person who signed it had the power and the authority to sign it. They don't check to see if the legal is correct. They don't check to see if the APN number that is on the document correct. All they care is it signed? Is it notarized? Is the notary seal clear? Is there a legal description attached? They don't know if it's correct or not. And they record it. Again, you have a recorded document. Sometimes it's done properly and correct, but sometimes it's not, okay? What you do have, if it's not done properly, is now you have a recorded deed, which we call now as a cloud on title. So when a title company, when you open up a transaction, whether it's a refi transaction or a sales transaction, the title company goes back to the last insured transaction. So therefore, if there's any uninsured deeds in between, we have to search those out. And the title company may ask for an affidavit of an uninsured deed signed by the person who, or persons who signed that document that's not insured. Or if it's done, if it's not correct, then we may ask, we have to re-record, do a correctional deed. But we have to go back again to the last insured transaction. So those uninsured deeds that were done, and sometimes I had one transaction, there was 27 uninsured deeds. 27. Here's the problem. We got to go back and find those people, you know, and if they have any personal liens or judgments, even though they came on and off, any personal liens and judgments, remember what we talked about the SI a little while ago? Those DA liens, those federal estate tax liens, they get attached to the property, even though they quit-claimed off and they're long gone. And that's the problem. The people think that, oh, it's a recorded document. That's it. It's etched in stone. That's done. It's correct. No, not always. Again, it takes the title company and the escrow company to clear up all that mess. And the longer one goes to sell and gets title insurance to clear up this mess, if it's a long time, then we face the problem of people passing away. Oh boy, that's fun. You know, and then, you know, was that person married that sold and separate property? Did they need to have a spousal deed? So again, it's a problem. So be very careful. And I know a lot of you realtors get asked to help a client or a family member or friend to help them with an uninsured deed. Be very careful. I always, you know, I'll provide the last vesting deed, so you can have your client can have the legal and APN number, but never type it up for them, never record it for them, because if something goes wrong, they're gonna come after you. Always advise for them to go see their CPA or their real estate attorney, because it's a very, recording a deed it's important, and that when it's done correctly.
The next question is for David. I'm purchasing a home with a swimming pool. My budget's very tight, and debating if I should spend more money to do a home inspection. Since the seller is providing me a 1-year home warranty, would that be enough?
Well, it's decision. And I heard that a lot because every time a homeowner call, when I asked them, I said, are you going to get a home inspection done? They said, oh yeah. And then later it turns out that their uncle is doing the inspection for free because they're not being charged. A lot of people, they think the home inspection is not necessary, and I can't change their mind. But the whole idea to get a home inspection is to possibly identify any significant defects of the property so that you can make an informed decision of your purchase. To give up a home inspection seems like it may save you money up front, but sometimes it can cost you more money when a major defect is discovered afterward. But to solely rely on a home warranty plan is a poor choice, because when a major claim is taken and the authorizer needs more information to make a decision, and sometimes the home inspection report can help the authorizer to review the condition and also give you a reasonable judgment. And here's the rub. Besides, this person is buying a house with a swimming pool. Keep in mind, your general home inspection does not inspect the swimming pool and the pool equipment. You need to purchase that separately from the home inspector. So if you did a home inspection, make sure that if you have a swimming pool, make sure that you pay the extra to get that done also, because otherwise the general home inspection report would not cover those items.
Okay, one last question for Richard. How are interest rates affected by the economy, and which is better, fixed or adjustable?
In today's market, as we all know, rates are rising. And basically it's when the economy heats up, inflation makes bonds less appealing, fewer people want to buy bonds, and the price decreases and rates rise. That's where we're at today. The economy, they keep saying, is getting better. That's judgment. But the mortgage rate history is not, we're not in normal times, because after 8 years of record low rates, we are adjusting to normal rates. Rates were over 5-6% every year between 2001 and 2009, and in 2000, they were at 8.5%. So as rates rise, what we have to do is become a little more educated as to what's going to be helpful to buyers with the home prices being what they are today. We have to look at alternatives, adjustable rates, buy-down rates, hybrids. So this is where we're going to be educators to the buyers, to the realtors, to how are we going to be able to get you into this home but still keep it affordable with the rising interest rates.
Well, due to the time, we're gonna, finish this affiliate panel, and please give a round of applause for this fantastic affiliate.